I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. I'm just going to show off my oolong tea here. This is tea that I got from Jesse's Tea House when I do the subscription, and every quarter they send out a new tea package. And this is called a Four Seasons Oolong. So it's a lightly oxidized, like greener oolong that's been rolled. And this is some of my favorite teas because it it reminds me of those like dinosaur eggs in the oatmeal because they just like burst open. Yeah, they just really expand in a beautiful way where you get to see the full tea leaf. I guess we can kind of talk about my current tea practice. I got into tea, I guess almost 3 years ago, technically. It was during a time when I had been dealing with a bladder infection. It was very painful. It caused a lot of like physical and psychological like trauma, to say the least. And it's something I'm still kind of working through, even though it's like, I would say in remission. Like I definitely have times where it comes back, but it's definitely not as like consistently painful as it had been in the past. And so I was working as a barista and I couldn't drink coffee, especially when I was dealing with that. So I switched mainly to tea. And even though tea is still kind of recommended as like something you don't drink when you have a bladder infection, it was a lesser of two evils basically. And I decided to still drink tea. And through also just like drinking tea, I was learning more about the different kinds of tea, the history of tea. And I just realized like not a lot of people, at least, a lot of people in Nashville understand like how like kind of incredible tea is in terms of the health benefits it offers, the like practices in which you can partake in with tea. Like it's the most consumed beverage in the world. And so, I don't know. Oh, that's kind of funky actually. Because whenever there's like a milky oolong that I really like. And it has components of that. It's kind of like a mix between a Tiguan Yin, which is like a green floral oolong, how I would describe it, and a milky Taiwanese oolong. That's really interesting. I don't know, I found a lot of healing in tea. I was also kind of at a crossroads with my like music career because I still do music. It's kind of in hibernation mode at the moment. I moved to Nashville to pursue a career in music. It hasn't really happened yet. Especially during this time where I was like discovering tea. Within the last 3 years, along with like learning about tea, I was also figuring out my relationship with music and the music industry, because Nashville being an industry town, it's very easy to like go out and network and honestly make things happen. But my why for music was coming from a place of like needing to show off, needing to prove I was worthy to be recognized by peers versus coming from a place of true expression. And it was in these last 3 years that I was like, oh, we got to find that. We got to tap into that why. And so I feel like honestly, tea has been a big part of that rediscovery process. I also have come across recently a tea channel called World Tea Hut. And I don't know the instructor's name, but I was watching his practice of Gung Fu tea, which Gung Fu means to make tea with skill. And his video on that dove more into a Taoist philosophy around tea, which I read the Tao Te Ching, and it's very practical, simple philosophy. And it's basically a book that there's like 2 to 3 sentences per page, and you can kind of get through it within a day. I'm going to shift here. You can kind of get through it in a day, and I don't know, it's one of those things where you could like sit and meditate on one page for a week. Ooh. It's very crisp. It's a lot more like vegetal. Not seaweed though. Like it's not as floral as I was anticipating it being. Now that I'm like kind of slowing down to really taste it. I found this video about like doubt practices within tea, and I feel like those are things I haven't come across too much in the tea world. A lot of it is on like how great the sourcing is, which is really important. Tea ware and like how important that is, where, you know, the history of tea, but I feel like I don't come across a lot of like how to practically use tea as a tool for like spiritual development. And that, along with how to taste, I feel like is what I would want to focus on with tea. Let's see. I don't know if you can see. Oh, see how big the leaves are? I don't know if you can catch this on camera, but like they just expanded so much in this little teapot. And to be honest too, I really love all the tchotchkes in tea. I love all the different tools. I love the tea pets. I don't know. It's just like, it's so peaceful to be a part of. And I think also I'm trying to figure out how to combine the worlds of tea and like running wild. Because at least for me, when I think of being wild, I think of like slash marks and like monster energy and just being like an animal. I want to try and do something different with that term wild, where it's like wild is like being unapologetically yourself, basically, and not second guessing your instincts. And I think with having a tea practice, it really actually helps center yourself to a point where you can show up in the world that way, especially today where things are so divisive and we have social media. Like, hot take, I do think that social media is causing a lot more ADHD symptoms to be popping up, especially in young adults. And we're also self-diagnosing that more. And we also are trying to focus on escaping the world because it's so painful to be in right now. Honestly, now's the time where we really need to step into it more and be as present as possible, because we need to figure out how to have coordination with people that we disagree with, and how to have like a harmonized discussion, because I truly think that we all want the same thing, but we all have different roads we want to take to get to that end result. Things get misinterpreted, things get taken out of context, and we end up creating enemies out of people that we could gain a lot of insight from. And thinking about that has me thinking about a situation that I've recently gotten into, because I have a part-time job while I'm working on my business. And there's been a person at my job that has been difficult to work with. But the thing is like, I feel like we do have a lot in common, but the ways in which we move through the world are conflicting. And there are some behaviors that I just don't condone, like being rude to people or being abrasive or like aggressive in communication, because I don't think that is how we get the results that we want, by kind of like bulldozing people. And my reaction to that is to just like have a wall. I have a hard time engaging with people that do that. And I feel like that's an example of how a lot of interactions happen around different kinds of topics. Is we get so passionate about something, or we get so frustrated about something, and we just wish the other person, like, we want to shake them. We want them to understand so badly, but they don't. And it just creates like a space where it's more distancing the person versus like bringing them into your point of view. But also it's hard to have people agree with your point of view, or even just acknowledge that your point of view exists. And so it's a delicate dance. And so anyways, tying that all back to tea, I feel like if we can approach like life through a lens of stillness and calmness, we will be able to get we'll be able to articulate our feelings more clearly, but two, we'll be able to have more productive conversations with people that we don't agree with. Oh, okay, I need to shift again. Our neighbors have a dog that has barked a lot since they've gotten it. I don't think they got this dog last year, I guess, and it has been, I kind of wonder how it's doing, because they just kind of let it out sometimes running around the neighborhood. Like, it's kind of charged my car when I would get out of the car, and there seems to be a lack of concern on the owner's part, because the dog, like, we physically saw it run alongside a pickup truck as it was leaving the neighborhood on the driver's side. And I was like on the phone with animal control when it happened. And I called animal control because I was like, one, just want this dog to be safe, but two, like, it's kind of dangerous if it is aggressive to have this dog running around without a leash. So, like, you know, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but what do I do? One of the differences I've noticed with doing a tea tasting versus like a tea ceremony is how you set the tone of it. With tea tastings, you're weighing everything out to the gram, and you're setting, you know, times for how long teas are steeping and how much water you're using. And it's like, you need to have consistent variables, so then you can have like an objective tasting experience with tea. So then it's something that you can replicate. Versus with a tea ceremony, nothing is weighed, nothing is measured, and it's all based on feel. And I think that's an important thing to be able to do well in both areas, because you want to be able to understand the qualities of tea that make it a high quality versus a low quality. And then with a tea ceremony, you want to then have the space to then use the tea as a tool for spiritual, physical, mentally, emotional development, or growth, I should say. I feel like with tea tastings, you're like carving the tool, like you're making the tool, you're banging it on the anvil, and you're sharpening the knife. And then the practice is actually like using the knife in combat. And it's important in tea, I feel like, as like a tea person that's like providing the experience, to be able to understand both. I like this teapot a lot. This is my first time using it. Another thing is not using strainers in that like kind of Taoist tea channel I found. It's called World Tea Hut if you're interested. I don't know if I said that earlier. I noticed that they don't strain some of their teas, and that's because it kind of goes back to like how tea was initially enjoyed. Shen Nong, who was the like ancient emperor who discovered tea in 2737 BC, like he was just sitting by his boiling water, because boiling water was a practice to like purify the water at the time. And some like he was in a tea garden basically where there were these ancient tea trees and the leaves would fall into his water, and he drank it and he noticed that he liked the taste and that he felt better after drinking it. And so that is kind of how tea was discovered. Like that's kind of the, you know, myth or legend anyway. And so since then, tea was used, you know, medicinally, and then it became like a enjoyed beverage. But going back to straining, it comes back to this practice of everything is changing, even the tea as you're drinking it. And so when the leaves fall into your cup, those leaves will affect the taste and profile very subtly. And that's part of life. Life is constantly evolving, life is constantly changing. And when we learn to embrace and enjoy those changes, that's where we can find ease and peace. And I thought that was just like a really, I don't know, that just really touched me in a special way. There's a Japanese kind of tea philosophy where you want every drop possible because the last drop, it's something like contains the universe or something like that. Or it's like the best tasting part of the tea is the very last drop that gets out of the teapot, which I think it's very special. I'm just kind of experimenting with different kinds of videos on the YouTube channel right now to figure out what people like, what people want to see. I think my like office build has been my biggest video so far, and I think I might do some more kind of like fun build type videos again. One video I want to do is I have like this cute little like portable tea. Well, I'll just go get it really quick. I would love to figure out how to like turn this into like my portable tea set with like a drip tray. So when you open it, it comes actually with like a really pretty tea set. You can kind of see in here. But the thing is like I would love to be able to utilize like the inside of this as like a tea tray itself, and like using like this for storage underneath, because I don't really love that like styrofoam is like keeping things in place. So I don't know, I would love to figure that out, and like also have like a bungee like mesh storage for inside for like teas and tools and towels and all that stuff. So I'll probably do a video building that out sometime soon. A bigger video that's going to take a while is building out a tea cart to take to weddings, because I think it would be really fun on the day of the wedding have kind of like more of like an English style tea cart that could be rolled into like the bridal suite while everybody's getting ready, and I can provide like tea and scones and I don't know, just have a little bit more of a bubbly social experience with tea. That'll be this year. That's kind of my goal for this year. I want to get the tea cart going, and I want to be able to start doing weddings by this year. Anyways, I hope you kind of enjoyed this like little chatty Cathy moment with me. I've been nervous to do like a chatty video because I don't know if people are interested in what I have to say. And if you are, thank you. Yeah, let me know if you like these videos. So I am going to eat and get ready for dance.